Hey everyone, Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys a brand new 2018 album review. And today we're going to be looking into, well, one of my most anticipated albums of 2018, and one album I've been looking forward to since this was announced. And as you can see below the title, today we're going to be looking into the new album from the almighty Judas Priest, entitled Firepower, which was released today. Now, Judas Priest definitely doesn't need an introduction. One of the most important bands in heavy metal history, and part of the new wave of British heavy metal movement, along with them, Iron Maiden, Saxon, bands from that caliber. And these guys have been around for a long ass time. They formed in 1968, I believe, from Birmingham, England. And wow, I was looking forward to this album ever since I first heard the single Lightning Strike, and I was like, wow. Priest are back with a vengeance. And of course, this new album is the follow-up to 2014's Redeemer of Souls, which I thought was a pretty good album. But to answer this question, does this album live up or exceed expectations as to Redeemer of Souls is? In my honest opinion, I think it definitely has. I honestly think this is the best thing Priest has put out since probably Painkiller, which in my opinion is still their best work to date. The production is just spot on. It's just everything is where it needs to be, and it's produced by Andy Sneap, who is actually now the live guitarist for Judas Priest after Glenn Tipton stepped down from touring because of Parkinson's disease, which for those of you who aren't familiar or don't know about that, which I am still kind of bummed about that. But anyway, back to the album. The vocal work. What can I say about Rob Halford that hasn't been said a million times before? One of the best heavy metal vocalists of all time, and one of my favorite vocalists of all time. Like, this dude has, like, amazing range, and just, wow. Guitar-wise, Glenn Tipton and Richie Faulkner, it's just typical Priest. You could definitely hear the guitars really well, and just the soloing and leads that they do is just amazing. The bass, like I said, I was a little bit audible compared to like previous Priest albums. I mean, Ian Hill is a solid bassist, and the drumming from Scott Travis. And like I said, in my opinion, Judas Priest's best drummer, and he does a really great job with this album, drumming wise. But yeah, without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, the album opens up with the title track, Firepower, and it immediately shows that the band won't be limited to their classic heavy metal and power metal history, but are also willing to like venture into sounds more befitting, like thrash. On the other hand, no time is wasted introducing Rob's like signature wail with no better. It's signaled that this is a Judas Priest album in the classic sense, and the iconic for its vocals sound just as strong as ever, if not stronger, with galloping guitar cadences, both classic Priest, but with like an additional edge to it. And then we go into Lightning Strike, which is the first single. Like I said, this song is just direct and powerful, much like its namesake, of course, and immediately it's an enjoyable song. While the bridge is nice and crunchy, Glenn and Richie's guitars are very much capture like the 80s sort of like power metal feel, with only like the slightest hint of like a dark edge. And then the album grows heavier and crunchier with Evil Never Dies, with a full-bodied bass rumble driving the track. And the song sort of sees Rob take on a slightly more threatening persona, while Scott's drumming are notably fast and pounding. Overall, the track feels like a similar attitude to Jagdpanzer, though more accomplished in terms of presentation. And the powerful guitar solo leads to a quite creepy moment, reminiscent of like Megadeth's approach to moments in a similar vein, leading itself to a particular comic book, though it's not cartoonish, understanding of horror. Next on the album is Never the Heroes, a bit of a potboiler, building tension slowly first in the interesting like synth intro, then some relatively minimal verses driven by the bass and not much guitar, instead of offering like a laser-like focus of Halford's voice and narrative. Never the Heroes remains a slower track, but it still has a lot of plenty of soul. Then we go into Necromancer, and this is where the intensity ramps right back up, which is the track that owes the most to like kind of like the Ripper era. It reminds you a bit. The track includes some marvelous call and response solos, as well as the most like in-your-face lyrics ever. Children of the Sun, heavy as the track is, there's just not much going on of interest. And Halford's angst in the song is a little reminiscent of some stuff from like Nostradamus, which came out like 10 years prior. And while the track picks up a bit with the solos, overall it doesn't make much of an impact. Guardians, a beautiful and unexpected interlude of piano and solo guitar, slowly building into an intensity until it leads straight into the next song, which is Rising to Ruins. Ruins, with the instrumentation coming together for a perfectly restrained but wonderfully impressive song. The gorgeous bridge leading into the soaring and evocative solos is some of the most intricate and climactic work on the album. Flamethrower, by contrast, is direct, just straight up metal. Well, there are some nice changes in pace and a melodic chorus combined with more aggressive verses. And Halford's approach, featuring like great vocal acrobatics and diversity, is clearly displayed here. Spectre, tense and heavy track, on the surface of what's similar to Children of the Sun is in that kind of vibe. It differs in that it has enough going on to retain the listener's interest, and it sort of introduces sort of like a horror segment that's perhaps reminiscent of like Alice Cooper, as well as like a thrash approaches to that feel. As such, the guitars retain that creepy atmosphere without it being like overbearing. Next song on here is Traitors Gate, which this song proves to be one of the strongest tracks on the album, starting off slow and a downbeat, but leading into more of a heavy, powerful track with a strong pace. It takes its time to build a truly epic feeling, but there is some wonderful mix in the atmosphere, beauty, and technical prowess in Traitors Gate, making it a very impactful track. No Surrender, perhaps the strongest homage of 80s Judas Priest on the album, though it captures the vibe along with the density and voluptuousness of modern metal. Lone Wolf, I mean, this song kind of starts off with a slow, creepy vibe. It's, again, sort of like what reminiscent of Megadeth. As the verse comes in, it almost kind of picks up a new metal vibe along the lines of Disturbed, though there are some like groove metal elements that may remind me of the Black Label Society, which is kind of weird for Priest, but yeah. And then the album closes with Sea of Red, which is actually a ballad, which is kind of like an odd way to end this album with. I mean, Halford delivers an inspiring performance on the track, and the guitars are equally powerful when they really kick in, like the 2.5 minute mark in there, with the solos making ample use in this last opportunity to impress. Now, overall, well, Firepower by Judas Priest, I mean, this album shows like a sheer quantity of like diverse songs, from like the ferocity of like Ripper era to like classic sounds of the 80s, and to a juiced embrace of like modern sensibilities. I mean, this is an album that maintains a classic band's identity while making meaningful contribution to their discography and to metal in general. A solid contender, and I think it's a solid album. And if I were to give this album a score, I'd probably give this probably an 8 to an 8.5 out of 10. It's that good. But yeah, that's my review of the new Judas Priest album, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I'll see you all in the next video, and keep it metal.